Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 hard days of hard work, good food, good company. And I just realized something which struck me. The similarities and differences between Malaysia, Vietnam and the Philippines. I didn't realize that Philippines and Vietnam are gender biased. You call yourself man of Philippines. In Vietnam they call themselves women. You realize that? Monitoring Evaluation Network of Philippines is pronounced as Man of Philippines. Vietnam Monitoring Evaluation Network is women. And Malaysia is MES, which is a mess. We didn't want that name. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity to do a little bit of wrap up here. Actually, I came here with a lot of, I should confess, bias. But I go away with a lot of good impressions. I'm very pleased actually at the depth of the conference. The topics covered right from policy level right down to the technical aspects of evaluation and so on and so forth. And I must say, from the presentations that very impressive. I didn't expect that we have moved away to such great depth in this coverage, especially in terms of quality of presentations and coverage of some topics. So I would confess to you that I'm taking away quite a lot of lessons learned to share with the other countries in terms of how to move forward. So congratulations to the conference organizers and all the presenters as well. But moving forward from the conference, I would like to share some thoughts with you. There are 2 or 3 key things which I think should guide us in terms of our evaluation journey. One is in terms of the Busan statement, which basically said that developing countries should take the responsibility or take charge of their own destiny. And I think this is really important. And I know there's a lot of support from development partners in the evaluation agenda, which is very good, because we need that kind of support. But at the end of the day, I think it's up to us to take the initiative and see how to leverage on this support and resources and things like that, and take it upon ourselves to move forward. And I think that's a big challenge because we don't want to get into this dependency syndrome. The second point which I thought was also important, which I think was mentioned by Teresa yesterday, that governance is best achieved when it is in the hands of the program managers. Again, very important lesson. That we do not need to be externally driven or what, but we should think for ourselves and see how best to do it and internalize the whole process. The value system that we're talking about, which I think is again very important. Thirdly, and I think this is something that we really need to take into account, that at the end of the day, when we're doing monitoring evaluation and we're doing a lot of work, conferencing, discussing, developing and planning and so on and so forth, that we need to make sure that evaluation is utilization focused. That means it must be meaningful. We are not going to do monitoring evaluation just because somebody said you need to do monitoring evaluation, but we must see it as an integral part of the performance agenda. And the performance agenda goes back to the point that it's not about being self-driven. Here I would like to quote an example from the Department of Agriculture in Australia. I had the privilege of working with them for a short while. And I was totally amazed because the program managers in the Department of Agriculture were doing evaluation almost on the run. They were looking at the programs, analyzing, and it's as if they were flying their own plane. They were doing evaluation very seriously. It's internalized, the value system. They take it upon themselves to see how best to improve and deliver the services for which they have been mandated. Even in Malaysia, we have never reached the standards. It's still about being encouraged from outside, pushed and cajoled and things like that. So I think that's a very important issue. Number 4, I think is again very important here, that we shouldn't again look at monitoring evaluation just as a piecemeal thing, but it has to be integrated with the planning process. Trust me, if we're just looking at evaluation at the end and trying to improve your whatever, that's not quite correct. And as I alluded yesterday, the factory error is very likely. So we should also pay equal attention to how are we planning and structuring and focusing our programs. And how are we then integrating evaluation into the process. Because if your planning is wrong, then even the best evaluation is not going to get you anywhere. So I think that's really an important point that we need to look at. Now let me touch on a few things that was discussed since yesterday, and I think let me go down, start from the policy level. Policy obviously is critical, it's important, it's a good incentive for us to do things. But again, I think the message that I would like to convey to you is this, that policy and being driven by policy alone is not enough. We may need to see how to shift from a policy-driven approach to an administrative culture value norm system. And then from there move into a self-driven system, that we do not need legislation to tell us how to perform. And I'm saying this from the Malaysian perspective, because in Malaysia we believe that, and this is a dichotomy between the politicians and the bureaucrats. We believe that the bureaucrats know best. Politicians are politicians. So we do not want politicians to come out with the legislation and tell us what to do. Secondly, if you want to change the legislation, it's a long process. You get mired in these, the difficulties of legislation. And we feel that if you can internalize the value of evaluation and incorporate that into planning and improve our performance in terms of program delivery, that is the best way to go. And that's why I quoted you the Australian example. Having said that, policy cannot be just on evaluation alone. I would really like to stress this to you in terms of way forward, that let's not just talk about policy on evaluation alone. Policy should govern performance management as a whole, and then incorporate monitoring as a critical and component of the performance management policy. And that's why, for example, in the United States they have the UPRA, Government Performance Results Act. New Zealand they have similar legislations and so on and so forth. It's not talking about monitoring alone, it's talking about performance. And one of that component is then evaluation. That's why it makes sense to talk about the evaluation. The other point I have is this, the entry point. I think moving forward, and I see from the conference yesterday and the lessons learned, there's still a little bit of gaps between the integration of different entry points. As you know from MFDR, there are 5 entry points to gauge performance. One is through the planning process, the second one is through the budgetary process, thirdly through the personnel system, fourthly through the monitoring evaluation tool, and then fifthly through the decision-making process, ICT and so on and so forth. So if these are the 5 entry points, I think we need to see that we can't just look at any one entry point. For example, we cannot just push through evaluation or performance management through data alone. It has to work in conjunction with the budget. The budget is very important because you're giving money. Similarly, the personnel performance, I have already alluded yesterday that takes up 40-50%. So and if the personnel is not performing, but your budget is focused, then you're not going to get a result. So the message I think is very important for us, I think moving forward, is that let's put evaluation in the context of the entry point and see how we can best bring together and leverage on the planning, the budgeting, the personnel performance in one holistic approach. Otherwise, you're going to do like, it's just like treating a lesion on your body. It's like firefighting. You just treat the wound but not deeper down. On the incentive systems, I had already mentioned yesterday, and I think it's again important. Personnel performance is very important for performance and evaluation. So the issue of incentives, I mentioned yesterday about the issue of bonuses and all that. Really need to think that it is important. It's quite radical, I would say, that when somebody comes into civil service, I set my target for performance at 100%. That you have to perform 100%. That's why we are paying you a salary and allowance and so on and so forth. And if you perform beyond that, that's when you get a bonus. Alone is not enough. It's just the bits and pieces. We really need to go at the program level, because the program level is made up of projects. So if we're really serious, we need to go at the program level and up to the policy level. Because if you cover the policy level, you automatically cover everything below that. So my solution would be that let's think about the projects are fine, but let's see in the context of the outcomes and the impact coming out at the program level and policy level. Otherwise, it's just a project. So I think we really need to look forward to it. Ladies and gentlemen, I think my last point is that in monitoring evaluation, you are not alone. Trust me, there are a lot of people working in this area, and DDG Tempalan knows very well this in the COP. We have a lot of countries who are moving and now focusing on monitoring evaluation. But again, our message to them is this, that look at it holistically, don't just focus on one thing at one time alone. So my point here is that there's a lot of resources out there, And in your effort, there are a lot of networks, communities of practice, and things like that. A lot of lessons learned and sharing to be done. So, and you should share what's happening here in the Philippines with the others. And there are a lot of sectoral and project-based experiences in other countries, which I think you can access through the COPs and also through networking. For example, we are forming the Asia Pacific Evaluation Association in the Philippines. We invited to be a member of that. And we have a lot of country case studies which we would like to share with each other. One more point that I need to impress is this leadership. I think in evaluation, leadership is important. And in Malaysia, we are lucky because it's driven by the Prime Minister himself. In a lot of other countries, this initiative for evaluation of performance is driven by the highest level, the President, the Prime Minister, and so on and so forth. So I think here you are lucky also. I understand that you have very good commitment from the leadership. And I think that's an important thing. But the second challenge is this. How do you translate that leadership vision at the second tier, which is the management in the organization? They must be equally committed because that's one of the challenges we find that not necessarily everybody has the same vision and drive to do things in the agenda. So I think those are the few things that I have here, ladies and gentlemen, to move forward. May I say that the slogan also is very important. Again, we are lucky in Malaysia, we have a slogan called People First, Performance Now. Which seems to be sort of galvanizing everybody into saying that we must go into service delivery. What does it take to improve service delivery? So I think I will leave you with that maybe we need to also drive ourselves with a slogan and maybe have a competition to come up with a very nice slogan to do the process. So once again, I would like to appreciate the conference, the topics, the subjects, the content of the delivery. And I'm very optimistic that in the Philippines, the men of Philippines will move forward very fast. Thank you very much and good luck.